So we're preparing the pond for liner. As you can see, Rosie and I are using a little sledgehammer, and we're going around just kind of tapping the edge a little bit. You'll find a couple of points from the concrete where it's kind of a sharp point, and we'll just go through and tap it and make it blunt, so when we put the liner in, we don't have any worries about having a puncture in the liner. If you'll notice down here, the guys are using flat shovels, and we're maintaining our slope. We're pulling that slope because we kind of tore it up a little bit when we were digging from the bottom drain over to the settlement tank to run the pipe. And then of course we poured some concrete around the bottom drain, had that tore up. So this is just our fine tuning. Next I want to show you what we're going to do around the bottom drain to prepare it for liner and the TPR jet as well. There's a couple things we're going to need to do to the bottom drain before we put the liner down. So let me take this dome off. And as you'll see, there's still some dirt on here. Remember, we left the mechanical attachment piece on here when we poured the concrete. So we'll have to pull this out. Before I get too far, I'm going to take this pipe out, if it'll let me. There we go. And I'm going to put some tape over the top of this because we need to take this dome out of here when we put the liner down. So I'm going to put some tape over the top. That way we don't get any debris inside our bottom drain where the air comes through. Okay, so that's protected. And now, I'm just gonna clear this off. We got to take this dome off. This is our mechanical attachment piece. So we're going to take this off and put it in the shed until we get the liner in. All right, so I got that guy pulled out. Now when we poured the concrete, we poured up right up to the edge. So that way, there's no speed bump for the debris coming into the bottom drain. But since I poured it all the way up to the top of this lip right here, when I go to put the liner in there, it'll be super tight. So I'm gonna take the time and I'm gonna knock down this edge right here so the liner can swoop right underneath it. And then there won't be any speed bumps, okay? One thing I wanna do before I cover this up, there's a little trick that I do. Let me have that. I want to clean this edge right here. Once the liner goes on top of this and we go to find our holes, it's a little bit difficult because you're kind of guessing. So before I put the liner in, I mark all these holes from the side. So like the line here, I'll make a mark, then I know that I have a bolt right in line with that. So when I cut this hole out, take it away, I can look in here and I can say, oh, there's a line right here. I must have a bolt lined up here. So I'll go through and I'll mark these holes real quick, and that'll save me a bunch of time once the liner's in place and I'm ready to make the attachment. So the next thing I'll do is I'm just gonna get my hammer, maybe a grinder on here. I'll grind this down a little bit so my liner has a nice sweep into it. One little tip I want to show you guys. If you've ever installed a bottom drain and had this problem, you'll appreciate this one. Sometimes when you start to put the underlayment in there and the liner, you'll get a little bit of dust kicked around, and this might come onto the bottom drain. It's easy to clean later, but it's not easy to clean if you get some sand inside that hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this on all these holes. That way when I get the drain uncovered, you know, in this little spot, I can reach underneath the liner, pop this up, and there won't be any sand stuck in that hole. And sometimes that's a problem when you go to install your screws. If that gets impacted with debris, it's a real pain in the butt when you're working in the blind. So I'm just gonna take the time, it's a couple extra seconds, and cover all these guys up. Okay, so now I can either chip away or do my hit this with a sledgehammer, or I'd prefer a grinder. If you don't have a grinder available to you when you go to pour that concrete, you might want to knock this edge off while the concrete's still wet. But since I have a grinder, I'm just going to come through and knock this edge down so the liner can swoop underneath there real easy. And before I do that, once we put the liner in here, you know, it's going to be a hidden bottom drain. You're not going to see it. So it's kind of dangerous, and you could twist an ankle if you stepped inside of it if you were busy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this hole with some underlayment, and that way when I bury it up, no one's going to break an ankle in it. All right, that about does it. The grinder makes short work of that. And then I'll just put a little bit more underlayment in here. So when we go and hide this with the liner, no one gets hurt. We're at the TPR jet on the side of the pond wall. There's not a lot to do here except take this flange off. Now, if you'll remember the last time you saw this, we had just poured concrete, and this was kind of all blown out still. It was kind of just sitting there suspended. There was holes back there. I just mixed up some mud from the pond site and just jammed it in there so I could have a nice flat surface there. So I'm gonna take this mechanical flange off and save all these parts in the shed, and it'll be ready for liner. All right, that's ready. The liner will go right smooth across there. All right, I'll just go hide this stuff in the shed and we'll be good. Here's a little something you can do if you don't want to lose the hardware while you're rocking in the pond. I'll throw my screws in here. That way when I go to install, I won't be looking for my screws.